Great. Yeah, let's go ahead and call to order this meeting of the City of Coppell's Future-Oriented Approach to Residential Development Task Force. Do we have... Sorry, go ahead.
Stop you real quick just so I can kind of remind everybody. So while we are recorded every meeting and the audio is posted, I did want just everyone to be aware that we are actually being streamed live right now. People can watch us live right now. And then the video and audio will be recorded and posted after this meeting is over. So I just wanted everybody to know that before we got started. So smile and look your best, I guess. So, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone signed up for citizens appearances? Yeah, I don't think so. Don't know how that would work. Okay. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes from February 12th, 2020. The February 12th minutes were attached to the minutes for tonight. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to take a look at those. Do we have any motions related to the February 12th minutes?
I propose to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion from Maria. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, Peggy seconds. All those in favor, I guess say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion passes. Item 4 on the agenda is presentation on housing data maps. Mindy, who will be giving that presentation?
So Matt Steer's going to present. He's done a lot of work to put together a bunch of maps for us that I believe you all got in the packet as well. But this was some of the information you all requested at our February meeting. And so Matt has spent time putting those together, and I'll turn it over to Matt to let him to present now.
Great, thank you. Take it away, Matt.
All right, thank you. Got my presentation coming up here.
Matt, you did an excellent job, by the way.
Thank you.
I mean, these really represented a lot of work. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. So for those of you who don't remember, my name is Matt Steer. I'm the Development Services Administrator, and tonight I wanted to walk you through the 7 maps we provided in your packet. These will provide a good baseline for you in determining what to research and how the city could help or develop out the remaining vacant land as well as redevelop. I know each of you knows how to read a map, but I thought I'd provide a little bit of background and what to look for on each of the maps before you start your research. So next slide. The first is the zoning map. The zoning maps across the country are generally the same in the colors used. Zoning provides a basis for the regulations that we hold properties to be developed under. Regulations such as setbacks, height of buildings, minimum lot areas, minimum housing sizes, and types of uses allowed. For example, a retail business would be allowed in a retail district, a residence in a single family district, and a warehouse in a light industrial district, to name a few. The yellow color on the map represents residential districts. These allow for single family uses, duplex, townhome, and apartment uses. As the yellow gets darker to brown yellow and then eventually to brown, that represents the density that would be allowed. The pink shades darkens to red. That represents the retail intensifying to commercial and highway commercial districts. These allow for retail, office, restaurants, and commercial type uses. Highway commercial districts would allow for hotels, mid-rise office, and regional type freeway uses. The gray is the light industrial district within the city, and as you can see, is most prominent on the western portion of the city. The reason being is that's where the flight path is. No residential development would be desired there. And with the close proximity to the airport, it was zoned industrial. The purple is a historic district, light blue is town center district, Each of these two districts allows for a variety of uses, both residential and retail. The main takeaway from this map is based on the zoning of the property, the allowable uses and minimum standards are determined. So this zoning is a direct result of the comprehensive plan for the city. So this is updated every 5 to 10 years and forecast out 20 or more years. Next slide. And this is the future land use plan. So the current comp plan was adopted in 2013. So it is in need of an update. We're anticipating beginning this process in the next year or two. Our future land use map comes from this document. And these are the uses we'd like to see developed on or redeveloped on the properties here within the city, taken from the plan. So the colors are in alignment with the zoning map. So if someone has an idea and wants to develop a property, we'd first look at this plan for the city. We'd look at this future land use map to see if their proposal is in alignment with the plan. And we'd help them through the planning process in obtaining the zoning for the property. If the use proposed is not shown on this future land use map, and we would first analyze it to make sure it specifically makes sense for that particular property. And if it does, then we'd have to amend the plan before changing the zoning. So this is really the basis for the development in the city. Next slide, please. This map gives you a snapshot of the city. This is the land use inventory map. So as you can see on the western portion of the city, 28% of it is developed. That means it's already built as commercial and industrial, and it is in the pink color. 32% is developed as single family, and that's residential shown in yellow, and a much smaller portion is developed as apartments, townhomes, and mobile homes. That represents about 3% of the city. There is less than 1% of the city left to be developed as single family residential, and these are represented in blue. Roughly 4% is undeveloped commercial and industrial. And these are represented by the darker pink color, the majority of which are along 121 and 635 corridors. Some of these have actually already gone through the development process, already gone through the planning process, and have plans approved for development. So the remainder, 11%, is parks and open space represented in green. The whites shown is the right-of-way that goes throughout the city. This is for streets and utilities. And then the last bluish color is public or institutional, which represents the schools and the city facilities. Next slide, please.
So Matt, before you go there, so Kira Court and Blackberry Farm, are those already approved?
Yeah, those are approved. Kira Court's probably halfway built out. Blackberry Farms has yet to begin any of the residential, any of the houses, vertical construction.
So because it's been approved, has it been approved? What, single family 7 or single family 9? What is been?
It's a planned development district. I can't remember exactly, but it's single family 9 or 7 or 9. But it's close to either one of those two districts.
So it's larger houses, basically.
I would anticipate that it would develop as larger houses, similar to Red Hawk, maybe. Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with Red Hawk subdivision.
Yes, I am.
But I can pull those details for you because I've got the plat on file, so I could easily shoot that over to you.
Well, I've seen the houses at Kira Court. They're 2-story. They don't look like they lend themselves to 55 plus living. But I haven't, because Blackberry Farm hasn't put anything in, I haven't seen what they're going to put in.
Right. Yeah. I can show you, or it's Terry Holmes who's the developer on it. Okay. So he, he's probably got some on his website. but I can definitely get you the details on that if say there's any out there.
Okay, thanks.
So let's see here. Next slide. Okay, so we're on the. Let's see here. Okay, on this map you can see the one and two story housing units. These are about the same. You know, there's about a 50-50 split between the two. So you can see on the next map, next slide, that the older housing stock contains the one-story units. So compare the two, and you can really see the houses built before 1990 are the one stories. Next slide. This map shows the properties that have the 65 and over tax exemption for the property. Approximately 1,900 properties are under this category, and 1,900 of the 15,000 residential properties. Next slide. This gives you an idea of the lot size ranges. The blue represents the most dense single-family housing stock. The lighter blue colors is 7,000 to 9,000 square feet. Green is 9,000 to 12,000. Yellow is 12,000 to 18,000. And the large lots are 18,000 and beyond. So next slide. So all of this information will hopefully be used when you begin your research on what types of housing the city needs, and ultimately what you decide to bring forward as a recommendation for City Council to consider. So I don't anticipate too much discussion on this tonight. I just wanted to provide you a brief overview of the maps that we provided to give you a little insight on how to use these maps going forward. But I am available to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
I have a question. Matt, Maria Bucalandro. On the map that you showed land uses, on the southern border, there was a line. Is that the train that's expected to connect from the airport to the DART line, the Cotton Belt? Is that the Cotton Belt?
Yeah, on the southern boundary.
Yeah,
there should be the Cotton Belt line that runs through the future land use map, and there's
right.
actually, yeah.
Can you show that slide again? Because I had a question about that.
Sure.
That's a problem. Because that, for the type of population we're working with, we 55 and plus, being close to schools and children's parks are not as important, but maybe the transportation would be. And so I think.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's the second map on there.
The second map, yeah.
Yeah.
The one just before that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that pointed line the way the Cotton Belt is, or what is that the railroad?
So that's the railroad actually. So this map was done before the true alignment was determined, but so that's the existing DART rail, the existing freight rail through there.
Right. So
but it does drop down. You know, once you get past Mockingbird, it drops down. You see where this star is?
Yes.
That's approximately where there's going to be the station, and then it would cross over South Beltline and continue west towards.
Okay, and I know this is a petition that would give you more work, but I think for us it's going to be very important to put on the land use, the transportation.
Right.
Just put, because, and I know that for the businesses and there's an opportunity to connect the employees to their businesses when they come in from the different DART stations and train stations. So if we could have at least on this map, what is going to be the alignment of that project, and
right.
Is that's
a really great point. Yeah, I'll definitely get that. I can probably just overlay the
Yeah.
the new alignment on there. I can get that from Dart and provide that on.
Right, and then maybe at another scale, because you're not going to be able to fit here the train station on Hebron or whatever, but this is, I know Mindy has that map, which is the map that was used for the businesses that are doing the Lyft partnership kind of thing. But maybe at another scale, look at those public transportation stations that are close by, because our population most probably would like to use public transportation and not necessarily drive, and they're not going to be moving in peak hours. So I think it might be a good layer of information to have.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's a great point.
You know, on that point, maybe Mindy could also ask, so MetroCrest does do, they will take the elderly around inside Coppell or into Farmers Branch, Carrollton. Can we get some stats from them as to how many of our elderly are taking advantage of the MetroCrest?
Absolutely. And we also have SPAN.
Okay.
So we can get data from SPAN and MetroCrest to include for you all.
That would be good. Is SPAN the one that takes you if you're handicapped?
It's handicap and age is what I believe it's open to today. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll make a note to get that data for you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Matt?
No, just he did a great job on those maps.
Thank you, Matt. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that was great.
Matt, well, I do have one question. So in the future, if we needed to kind of hone in and see, you know, if of the single family, one-story houses, how many of those have exemptions that they're over 65 or something like that, where we had to cross some of the data from the maps, how hard would that be? Or is that something that you could do if we were researching that?
I'm sure we could figure it out. Yeah, just overlay the maps and yeah, do some hatching or something. I think the reason why I separated them was it gets way too busy if you've got all the data on one map. But definitely that's up to you guys to figure out how to weight the values and how other communities have weighted those values, because I think it's good data.
Yeah.
Or data, whatever, however you say it.
Yeah, very good.
All right, thank you. And scrolling through the list of participants, I did see that Mani had joined us, so hi to Mani. All right, item number 5 on the task force agenda today is discussion on process and next steps. So the work plan matrix was also attached as a link. Everyone pull that up.
So just to jump in here. So I put together this matrix based on some of the discussion we had at our February meeting. So admittedly, it's been 2 months since we had that meeting. So I may have missed some of it, and there are plenty of opportunities for us to add other things. But just based on kind of the conversation that we had, I felt like y'all identified on the steps, those next steps being discovery, prioritization, build feasibility proposals. Checkpoints, I'm not really sure how that plays into it, and then actually building a proposal for city council. So I thought if we put it kind of in this matrix, it would be easier for us to kind of break down what we needed to do, break up responsibility, which this will kind of tie into our subcommittee discussion on the next agenda item also. And then maybe help us with one of the other things y'all talked about at the February meeting was wanting to come up with a timeline. So if we provided some goals and deadlines and then kept up with the status check, that might help us stay on target with any type of timeline that y'all wanted to follow. So I thought we could kind of go through these tonight, see if there's anything else you want to add under the different steps and actions, or if there's anything you want to change with what we currently have out there. I've already thought of one additional thing to put under what I would think would be discovery, but we'll talk through the first ones first, and then I'll mention that one in a second. But so the first one that we did tonight was to discuss the baseline data and land in Coppell. And I'm sure there will be more discussion on that, but that was kind of our starting point that you all asked for, was to bring in that data to have a better understanding of what the makeup of Coppell is already, so that we can kind of find those gaps and where we could potentially add some density if we wanted to do senior housing in that format. Then we talked about creating a matrix of the various types of senior housing. And Peggy, I know I put your name right there, but if you want me to take it off, I will. But I know you had mentioned that you were going to take a stab at putting some of those different types together in kind of a matrix.
Yes, I have done that. I need to post it so that everybody can kind of see it and play with it, and then, kind of send me back any type of, remarks or anything, changes, whatever you want to do.
Okay. Then I had on there, we wanted to do a benchmark study on what other cities have done, and done successfully. And I don't know if we want to switch those around where we do the benchmark study first, if we want to create the metrics and then figure out which ones we want to study. And then Leslie brought up last week, and I thought this was a good add that we weren't thinking about in February because we didn't have this to think about. But I think you all are aware that many of our senior living centers or assisted living centers have really struggled with COVID-19. And so Leslie added, study the failures of existing senior housing with regard to COVID-19 and seek expert advice on innovative ideas to limit the rapid spread in the future, which I think is a very valid point for us to think about going forward. We've got Louis Rahil in our office that we could bring in to kind of talk about this. And we could look for others if y'all had other people that you wanted to come in and kind of give a presentation on that. So I thought that was a good add. One of the other things that I was thinking that probably would fall under discovery, and we talked about it and I just forgot to add it, but would be to bring in different presenters and developers to discuss some of the different options that are out there today. So I think we would put that under discovery, but if y'all think that would fall under a different step, then certainly let me know.
Mindy, I was thinking the same thing because Del Webb, I don't know if you read the senior housing section on Sunday in the paper, but Del Webb just keeps popping out those senior communities left and right. Now, I know we don't have enough land to have a big old, golf course and all these senior housing built around it, but I think it would be interesting to ask them, what did they look for? I mean, they didn't come in and pitch a Blueberry Farms or whatever it is, that farm, the area there that's now taken up. But what did they look for? Why do they pass those places up? I mean, land is land.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, I think that would be, and we talked about that, and then I forgot to add that onto this work plan. So that's one more that I'll add under discovery. Is there anything else under discovery that y'all would like to see added? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have my hand up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Daniel is whispering to me, but he there's actually, I guess it's zoning or regulations of what we can do and what we can't do. That, I mean, it goes
where
what
are the restrictions? Where can we think to maybe do some rezoning, or where can we create those new residential, 55 plus areas.
Right,
Because,
and so we have the 55 and plus people that are owners, and actually we're the owners of this property with my mother who's 90, and so yes, this is one of those little dots. But in order to propose something, and this is more a zoning thing, so I don't know if it's Matt or who it is, what kind of things can we propose and are inside the zoning in what places? Because we don't want to propose something that's not feasible, with the legal framework.
But I think that the playing field is open because, like, for example, one of the housing types is to build a 1,000-foot house on a major property. So obviously it would be the 18,000 square foot properties. You can build a smaller house for 1,000 feet and have your parent live in that. There are several communities that have adjusted their ordinances to accommodate that. So what I take away is that if we decided that that's something that the city council should really look into, that that's something that's growing and people have had success with that, that we would work with Matt and Mindy on what is the single family ordinance is on the 8,000 square foot place and what ordinances would have to be adjusted and how would that happen? Would it be a special adjustment and you'd have to prove that you were creating a house for your elderly person or whatever we, as we delve into it with the cities that have allowed it, what do they have and how we would have to change it? Because as far as I'm concerned, I think we can ask the city council to change or alter anything that we feel suits the purpose of the 55 plus housing that they're asking us to research.
So I will say one of the things, because we did talk about that in February, and so I have also added, so I'm not jumping ahead. I had added under build feasibility proposals, which I did not have on here, but I have create criteria that we need in place to get us what we want. And so kind of that same thing, what we need to do to our ordinances. Once we decide what we want, we need to do to our ordinances and where in order to allow what we want. So yeah, I think that's getting at what both of you are saying. And again, I put it under build. I wrote it down under build feasibility proposals, but maybe it needs to happen sooner than that.
Discovery phase.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Matt, you had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. So part of kind of my analysis is we haven't updated our comprehensive plan yet, and so that's the document that needs to come first, and that's good. It's good that we haven't done it because it's time for an upgrade, right? And so this committee is going to provide council the knowledge for the upgrade of the plan. And then once we get that plan upgraded or updated, then we can go in and change the zoning in accordance with the plan. And so that's what happens whenever someone comes up with a proposal. They come up and say, well, it doesn't match the plan. Well, so after we've amended this plan, we can change the zoning to be in accordance with it. So I think the process is plan first and then zoning second. So thank you.
Matt, on the zoning part or on the land part, do we have any parcels that are actually large enough for a full subdivision or not?
We do, and they're not currently zoned for residential, but that's part of this is to change the plan. So we've got some acreage on the west side of town that's currently highway commercial zoning that could potentially get rezoned and future land use planned into senior housing. So yeah, yes, we do.
Okay, so I would say
not much
on this discovery thing, we may need to get the police department involved, because I know that I've seen several police reports on some of the housing that's near 121 and stuff, and their the crime rate in certain areas of town, especially where you have easy access to a highway. So I think eventually we would need to get their input as well.
So I'm sorry, Peggy. So you were saying to add to the discovery phase, and I missed what you said about something with the police department.
Yeah, maybe a crime map where we see the heavier duty crime areas. Because from what I understand, and I could be wrong, from what I understand, the crime rate is higher when you can hop on 121 and get away.
Okay.
So we would need to look at that if we're going to look at some of the industrial areas and maybe look to see if they could be commuted into residential. The other thing that I can share with y'all is that, my mother is at St. Joseph, and they did have a COVID-19 person in the assisted living area. They immediately locked down the place, and the assisted living people don't really commingle with the independent living people, which was a very big positive thing. They only had the one case. She got better and got back into assisted living. She's back home now. The facility did an excellent job of locking down immediately. In fact, their gates don't even open right now. You have to have a code. You have to have a reason for entering their gates. And then the people living there were also told that they cannot leave the compound. And if they did leave the compound, they could only go to doctor's offices or to for tests, medical tests. And if they did leave, they could not have housekeeping for 14 days. So that because they didn't want their housekeeper to possibly get, come across it because they left the compound. So they have been in the compound. They are still locked down today and have been since I think March 12th or something like that. And they have been following CDC instructions for the facility. So as far as I know, that's the only senior facility that's actually in Coppell. I think the places across the street from that are in Louisville, in Carrollton. But they're all doing the same things. They're in lockdown. In fact, we're not even allowed to go into Mother's place. I have to leave packages on her doorstep, and if she lived in the independent living apartments, I would have to leave it with the staff at the door and then leave. So they don't let anybody in. Yeah. So that's kind of how they've handled it.
Maria has her hand up, and I'm going to say I apologize because I don't see everybody on the screen. So if anybody else is trying to speak, just chime in. So Maria, I saw your hand. So.
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback on what Peggy was saying, because from what I've been reading, these huge facilities with 900 elderly or something have been really hard to contain. And so I think we should be not only be looking at maybe solutions with smaller groups of population there, not only because of the size of our lots or the amount of elderly we have here as a city versus other cities, but also because of health reasons and things like COVID-19. And so I would just encourage all of the members to look, to start thinking out of the box and look at, best practices of maybe smaller types of buildings or whatever, because I think this COVID-19 has really alerted us that the large concentration of people is a huge liability or problem in case of infectious diseases.
Yeah, that's a good point. We should definitely keep that in mind, especially in that discovery phase of benchmarking what other cities have done with success. We should definitely keep in mind both the large and the small projects and see how they've been impacted. Absolutely.
Could we have some developers that have specialized in that maybe come and speak to us about their best practices? I don't know if it's developers or owners or some external people talk to us about that.
Specifically about the spread of infectious diseases, or just the different size?
The different types of residents and pros and cons of both, because it is a cost thing too. I mean, it's the matter of scale. If you have big developments, yes, you lower the cost, but then you have this health issue. So we were talking about bringing in speakers. I think it would be, I don't know who would it be. Would it be the developer? Would it be the owner? Would it be, I don't know, but maybe get an understanding of the pros and cons of going big or small, or what best practices or learn lessons. Okay. The discovery.
So are you looking to see if is the board looking, I guess, to see if we should have a secondary type of, like a St. Joseph, where you've got an apartment type independent living, and then you can graduate to non-independent living to assisted living?
I think all options are on the table.
Looking at that too? Okay.
And I do have a few, and this will be for later in the agenda, but when I attended the senior housing panel, there was some discussion about different property types.
Okay. I'd like to see the list of the different property types so I can cross-reference it to the matrix, and then I could add it or change the name of what I got into the matrix to something that is more user-friendly.
Okay. Any other comments as far as the work plan that's up on the screen right now?
Peggy, when you get that done, the matrix, can you actually just put it or give it to Mindy to put up on SharePoint? I mean, that way we can make our comments and it follows all the rules that they were talking about.
Yeah, that's fine. I thought that we could put stuff on SharePoint, so I was going to try it, but I can pass it to Mindy and she can do it.
Oh, if you can do it, that's great.
Yeah, I think you all should be able to upload documents. I don't want to lie to you and tell you definitely, but I think you should be able to. If you can't, then you can send it to me and I can upload it for you.
Okay, great.
So then just real quick to go through. So the prioritization, we talked about creating desired categories to analyze senior housing types. So after we kind of get that matrix built and we go through them, we'll look at kind of what our desired categories are of what we're trying to fit. Because we talked a lot about, what age group should we be focused on? Are there different options so we could accommodate different age groups based on different types of products? Do we have the land to do that? And then create the ranking criteria based on those categories to explore what the best options are for Coppell. So that's what I had under prioritization. Like I said, under build feasibility proposals, I'd mentioned adding that piece about the zoning and figuring out what we needed to do. And then that would play well into, like Matt said, the comprehensive land use plan update. If council buys off on what our proposal that we submit, then they should probably be in favor in supporting that on the comprehensive land use plan. Checkpoints, I had it written down, but I didn't have much detail with it. So I don't remember what we discussed on checkpoints. So if anybody has anything to add on that, I'm sorry, Maria, you have, and Leslie both. I'm sorry. Okay, Maria, your hand.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I remember that had to do, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The checkpoints, I think, were with the other committees that were working, so that we could, our chair, our vice chair, could meet with the other committees, especially the one that's smart cities. That's what I remember from those checkpoints, so that what we're proposing has a connection with other committees. That's what I remember.
That's great. That just jogged. Now that you said that, I do remember that. So thank you, Maria. Leslie, you had your hand raised. Something else.
The thought was maybe as a checkpoint to look how it aligns with the 2040 plan. And then also we talked about it kind of having a certain standard, maybe not, super high-end luxury, but have it be nice and fitting in with the way Coppell is, and just saying, does it match these things? Have we got it right?
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you all, because I really had drawn a blank on what we discussed there.
Hey, Mindy, my hand is off screen. I'm sorry, my camera.
Oh, no, sorry.
I think also the checkpoint was that when we start to kind of get our legs under us, like a new fawn, that we may want to run it past, the mayor or our city liaisons to make sure we're on the right track and that we haven't misunderstood what they think we're doing.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Anything else on that? That's great, because I thank y'all, because I really could not remember what that was. So that's perfect. Anything else on those? Okay, and then the last one is the actual proposal. So anything under that y'all want added?
I mean, that seems the most nebulous at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the whole timeline that we had been thinking of in February has sort of been cast into the air because we don't really know. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 to 9 months or even 18 months. And so we're kind of at the mercy of that goofy virus for the time being anyway.
Yeah.
Flexibility's got to be key.
Yes, I think you're exactly right. And so that actually might be a good point on deciding on even on kind of our goals and deadlines. We may need to, rather than getting too aggressive and setting those right now, we may need to keep those fluid and flexible a little as we're as we're going through this. So okay, that's all I had on the matrix. Julie and I am going to ask, or Kevin, I don't know who's running that, if y'all will keep this up for the next item. So unless y'all have anything else to discuss under this item, we'll keep this up as we discuss the next.
I would add also in the discovery, maybe updates of the timeline for the city, how's the council working, are there any due dates, or because our schedule or our timeline, it would be great to be aligned to what's happening in the city. And with COVID-19, everything's changing dramatically. So I don't know if it would be useful to maybe start our meetings, maybe you with, certain bullets of, where we're at in terms of the city. And if there's any due dates or anything that we need to be aware of.
Just meaning in terms of facilities or their, okay.
Yeah, facilities, the plan, because I think the whole timeline of everything has been moved. And so it's important for us as a committee to know those changes.
Okay, Perfect.
Yeah, going back to Matt's point about the need to update the comprehensive plan, I think that would be the worst thing that could happen as we go through all of our effort, and then oh well, thanks for your report, but the city's already updated the comprehensive plan, so avoid that if possible.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, so just along those lines, if y'all aren't aware, the city council elections got pushed to November. Mm-hmm. And so there are 2 seats that could change out, which, could have, while that wouldn't be the majority of council, it could change a little bit in terms of what their priorities are. So, so that's a very valid comment. So it won't change the 2040, obviously, but it could change some things. So I will do that. I'll kind of update y'all each month on any changes or any timeline changes for the city as a whole. So that's a good point.
All right. The next item on the agenda is a discussion of potential subcommittees. So based on the discovery phase, I think if that could be scrolled up a little bit. The other way. Thank you.
And if I remember correctly, at the February meeting, y'all had discussed potentially breaking up into subcommittees. And so I assumed it was maybe to accomplish some of these things. So that's why I thought we could leave that up there to see if y'all wanted to look at this tonight and kind of decide on some, if y'all would rather wait, or if you would rather utilize subcommittees for something else, if you would rather wait until the next meeting to define what you want subcommittees to do. I'm fine with whatever. I just wanted to make sure I brought it back since it was brought up at the February meeting.
Okay. Thoughts?
I don't know that we're there yet.
I don't think we're there yet either.
I agree.
So the discovery portion really needs to be the whole group. So we need to tackle some of the discovery things as a whole group. And then after that, we could start maybe doing.
Yeah, I think the discovery, once we see what that is and we've identified some of those things, then we can say, okay, now let's break off and discuss this chunk here, maybe.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So then let me ask, so for the next meeting, would y'all like me to go ahead and bring in Louie from he's with environmental health and community development. Would y'all like him to come in and kind of talk about COVID-19 and the impact it's had, since that's a pretty relevant topic right now, or would y'all rather focus on something else next month?
I think that would be great. Certainly it's top of mind, and it's something I think we want to consider moving forward. And then that might also lead us down another path. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I would add, Mindy, if you could, I think it's important to talk about COVID-19, but in the context that we're in, thinking of 55 and plus housing, what lessons have been learned. I mean, get this person to, instead of giving us general things, maybe, and I know there's got to be academic journals or whatever in health that are looking at this, but there might be already recommendations of the types of facilities, the size, what are the populations that are most vulnerable. I don't know. I would give him the framework of, who we are and kind of focus it to 55 and plus housing. So it's more pertinent to what we're doing, especially since our meetings are so short.
Yes, definitely. So I'll definitely tie into that. We're looking at it in terms of how it impacts the senior housing facilities. He's on a call every day with Dr. Huang from Dallas County, and then also with the state. And so definitely, so taking out just Coppell, he's got the perspective of the senior living facilities across the state and can bring some of that information to us, because again, that's what we need as we're looking at what we want. So we could definitely make sure that his information is tied specifically to that. So
yeah, those are the ones that are most vulnerable anyway.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, with the Mindy, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, go ahead, Bart. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was going to say with the sounds like our group consensus is to table the subcommittees at the moment and keep chugging along with the discovery aspect. So that brings us into item number 7 on the agenda, new business. I did want to give everyone a summary of the senior housing panel I attended on March 11th, which feels much longer than 2 months ago. So a couple of the key takeaways I got from that. One is that developers start planning new projects about 10 years out based on anticipated need. So that's, as we've discussed here, we're definitely looking at a long time frame. So developers are kind of on that same long time frame. The World War II generation, when they were getting ready to retire, they had a lot of money saved and they had very simple needs as far as food and recreation. Senior housing developers are now finding that baby boomers are rather the opposite of that. They don't have as much money saved up and they have much more complex needs as far as food and recreation. So I thought that was interesting. The big focus at the moment is on active living and on wellness as well. More senior living options are being developed in city centers versus the suburbs. The idea there was that seniors generally don't want to drive around as much. And someone earlier mentioned the idea of the transit hub with the Cotton Belt line being a potential focus spot for senior living. And I think that that is an area that, while not necessarily a city center, quote unquote, the idea that it would be kind of a centralized congregation point from that perspective makes sense.
Yeah, access is a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Developers are anticipating a reduced need for parking due to transportation changes, both increased availability of mass transportation, as well as things like, Uber or Lyft, or, in the future, potentially autonomous transportation options. So when there's lower parking requirements at a facility, that lowers the development costs for a facility because they can focus on the building itself as opposed to all the extra land for parking cars. Developers are increasingly integrating technology in their units, but they still want to offer opportunities for human interaction as well. From a generational perspective, millennials are less likely to have their parents come live with them for a variety of reasons. Sometimes that could be just less living space in general. So that potentially increases the pool of seniors looking for specialized senior housing options. Again, something we've discussed before. They do say that Dallas is one of the most active senior housing construction markets in the nation. Not Dallas specifically, but the DFW metro area. Peggy mentioned the Del Webb folks popping out new communities all over the place. Increasing land and labor costs do impact construction. So that's true for senior living just like anything else. So that could be one reason why the DFW area is so popular, lower land and labor costs. They did say it's much easier to build a new modern facility than to rehab an existing facility that's 20 years old. So just the cost to go in and revamp the technological underpinnings of a facility that's 20 years old are going to be so high that most developers would rather just build a new one.
Like ADA retrofits.
Yeah, exactly. There was a discussion of memory care facilities. Memory care facilities are apparently very difficult to finance. And the kind of sad rationale behind that is that dementia patients don't tend to be there for very long. So when it comes to memory care facilities, this idea of a continuum of care facility tends to be much more attractive to the market. And the market being the people who are investing money in these senior living facilities. So again, the idea behind a continuum of care facility is that you could move into it when you're still in the active independent living phase, And then as your needs, your assistance needs increase over time, then you're able to get those additional services. And actually, 80% of the cost of senior housing is personnel cost, because some of those services can be so personnel intensive. So this idea can be somewhat ameliorated in an active living scenario by offering only the a la carte services that the residents needs. So again, in the active independent living phase, they might not need very many services at all. And then over time, they might need more specialized services until eventually they might need round-the-clock care. There's also an increased desire by seniors to age in place, live in their existing house as long as possible. So what these developers are noting is that the average age at move-in is increasing as a result. Again, in the past with the World War II generation, they might have moved into a senior living facility once they hit retirement age because it was just kind of the standard thing people were doing. But now people are much more likely to stay in their house just as long as possible. There was a discussion about adding senior living as part of a mixed-use development. That's a future goal for a lot of developers. So again, if we're looking at a future transit-oriented development on the south end of Coppell, having the potential for a senior living facility as part of that overall development mix is a possibility. And the final point that was made was that there are out-of-state developers that come into Texas and build in unsuitable locations because they don't understand the market. So not every senior living facility is built by people that understand the market. Sometimes out-of-state developers just look at the DFW area and they see low labor costs and low land costs, and they build out somewhere where they find the cheapest land, but that's not necessarily where people want to live or where it's convenient for them to live. So those were my notes from the senior housing panel.
Those are great, Bart. Would you feel good about uploading those to the Foard SharePoint site? I mean, that was a lot of really good information.
Yes, yeah, I know it's a lot. I was reading off my very long list. So yeah,
No,
I'll
it's
definitely
really
upload
good.
that to
So
SharePoint. Yep.
If you wouldn't mind uploading this to SharePoint, I think that could be useful for.
I would be very happy to do that.
Did they also mention the people that are hard of hearing probably don't mind jet noise?
A very specialized community on the west side.
That airport property is looking pretty good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask, since we're in the new business phase, does anyone have anything else to bring up at this point?
So I was going to bring up one thing real quick. So as far as we know, or until we hear otherwise, I believe we will be doing our meetings virtually. So I'm just assuming our June meeting will be a virtual meeting as well. So with that being said, I want to thank Cammie and Julian and Kevin, who, I know y'all don't know Julian and Kevin, but Kevin is Booth, if you're looking at the screen, and Julian and Cammie, they put all this together for us and made this possible. So I just want to thank them for all the work they did to make this possible for us tonight.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Julian's been Julian and Kevin, both have been heroes, because there have been a lot of virtual meetings and they've been running all these. So I'm sure they're tired of our meetings. So anyway, so unless we hear otherwise, I'm assuming our meeting will be virtual again in June. And so for the June meeting, then what I've written down to bring back, so we can bring Lue and discuss COVID-19 and the impact on senior housing facilities. We will hopefully have Peggy's matrix by then, and we can kind of start looking at that and discussing that. I'll bring back the SPAN and MetroCrest ridership data for seniors. Matt, not to spring this on you, but if you can bring back the map that has the transit line shown. So is there anything else y'all would like to see on the June agenda?
I guess we need to go ahead and set a date for that.
Yes, so the June meeting.
Wouldn't it be our normal Wednesday?
Yes, so June 10th would be the second Wednesday of the month.
Second Wednesday, yeah.
So is that?
I think that should work, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so if there's nothing else, I mean, nothing else that anybody wants added to that agenda, or if you think of something over the next few weeks, just email me and we can make sure we get that added to the agenda.
Great. Any other new business to bring up from anyone? Seeing a lot of shaking heads. All right.
I move to adjourn.
Fantastic. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I second.
Excellent. All opposed? I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Everybody
Barry.
It's good to see everyone, even if it's virtually. So we'll see
Thank you, Mindy.
you. Be safe.
Absolutely.
Be safe.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay.